This is the Authentic Sex Podcast, real-life conversations about sex, pleasure and relationships. I'm your host, Juliet Allen. This episode of Authentic Sex is sponsored by the Juliet Pleasure Wand. The Juliet is a premium crystal pleasure wand designed to heighten your sexual energy, increase self-love and self-pleasure, expand your orgasmic experiences, and connect you to your true sexual essence. You can read more and purchase your own crystal wand by visiting my website, www.juliet-allen.com. Shaney, welcome back to Authentic Sex. I am so delighted that you have joined me again. You've been on, is it just once or twice?
Three
Do you
times.
remember?
This is our third time.
Oh, how great.
It's so good to be back.
Yeah.
I feel like you're tracking my journey, my career path,
I
and my
am.
personal journey.
I am. Every year I'm like, we need to get, it's like an experiment. We need to get Shaney back on so that we can get more data on.
The self-actualizing through sex.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, if you're listening and you love this episode after you've finished, I'll put the links to the other episodes with Shaney in the show notes so that you can go and keep listening to her speak. But do you want to just introduce yourself today, a bit about what you do, where you're at?
Yeah,
where you
I
live.
teach women. I live in Byron Bay, in paradise, a moldy paradise, but it's paradise.
True. Everyone's slowly dying a slow death from mold poison, but it's paradise and they all look beautiful.
Yeah. And I teach women about the feminine mysteries, and I've been working with the erotic current, sexuality, like erotic themes, sensuality, consciously since I was 18, since I went into a strip club and started working as a dancer. And I've really utilized this pathway as a way to know myself more deeply and feel my aliveness and transform myself and self-actualize through Eros. Yeah, through the awakening of Eros. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
so
and
today,
I was thinking,
you go.
I was thinking how on our last call, our last podcast, I was in a space of really like unpacking the way that my nervous system had been imprinted by partnership. Remember we talked about that, and it's interesting to be here now because I feel like my journey with the themes that we're going to speak into today really kind of ride the coattails of that last call around the process of healing through the feminine and how the feminine lets it all in rather than trying to cut cords and push it out and, be this like, I'm, like this kind of masculine transformation process. Like what happens when the feminine like embraces it all and brings compassion to all of it and is inclusive of all the pain, and rather than trying to push it out, brings it in deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah.
I love that, and that's what we can explore today. So I have you here because we connected via probably a message on Instagram, let's be honest, and I was like, how are you? And you shared that you were exploring this connection with a woman, and I kind of jumped on it and said, oh wow, like let's record a podcast about that, and I was intrigued, and always love hearing about where you're at and how you're going and what you're exploring. You're a very interesting, mysterious woman. So here we are, and I'm looking forward to hearing you share. So last time we spoke, I think from memory, were you in relationship with a man at the time?
I think I was coming out of a relationship with a man. Yeah, I was actually coming out of a relationship with 3 men, not at the same time. Not at the same time. But I had done 3 consecutive back-to-back relationships with men over 12 years where I hadn't actually taken much time to really meet
Wow.
myself. I was terrified of actually being with myself and what that would mean. It would mean I wasn't going to have a baby. You know, all these like neurotic fears were really coming up in those spaces in between that I couldn't actually stay with. So last time we spoke, I was ending that, and I committed to a strong and long period of time of being alone, and then I ended up kind of falling into a dynamic with a woman, which was all sorts of intoxicating beauty and magic and drama.
Oh, there's always a bit of drama for good measure, right? With women. Oh gosh. So how long were you just by yourself?
Well,
How long did you
I'm
spend?
still in this, but I'm still, you know, there's been this weaving with this woman. So far, it's coming up a year actually, and I'm still not ready. I still feel this like contraction in my belly around like, oh, like commitment, like the
Yeah.
responsibilities of what it is to actually say yes to a relationship, and how I never really consciously considered that in the past. You know, I never really sat with, oh, the responsibility of what it is to really show up for love,
Yeah.
in a way that you're building something with someone. So I'm still kind of being with those parts. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go into when we before we started recording, you know shared that it's one thing to sleep with a woman, and it's another thing to sleep with a woman who you love, and the difference. And let's just lead the way.
Mm.
How did it come about that you? Well, you actually don't have to share that how you met her, because that may be, you know, a personal story, but it's up to you. And was there a part of you, like, have you explored with women in the past, or was this a first time thing? Like, I'm curious to know that first.
Yeah, no, well, actually, my first experiences were with girls. So my first clitoral
Mm,
orgasm was with another girl growing up.
mm,
Um, and being sexual with women was always a thing. I've been in love with 2 women,
mm,
one in my 20s and then a more recent connection.
mm,
And, you know, I've had sexual connections, like both like, you know, sensual and sexual, and I've had lots of threesomes and things like that.
mm,
Um,
mm,
but there's a distinct and different quality of making love to a woman that you're like
mm.
your heart is like poured into. It's like an oxy fest, you know, it's an oxytocin fest. It's like
An oxyfest.
yeah, I read
I've
that
never heard
online.
it. So yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's an
It's just like
oxyfest.
so much intimacy. So much intimacy.
Mm,
Like and that's when it's not like mimicking a male female sexual dynamic. You know,
yeah.
it's like very true to
Mm-hmm.
tone of like the intimacy that is being woven between and through the love that you're sharing.
Mm,
I feel like it's
mm.
just like an overflow of the heart. And it's interesting because I don't walk around on the streets and like check out women like I check out men,
Yeah,
right? Because there's a different kind of polarity.
yeah.
I feel like I have to kind of um, bond through the eyes and
Mm.
feel that spark arise in a different way than there's not this kind of pervert in me that has the same pervert that I have you know, like when I go into a city and there's like all these hot men or something, you can feel the like there's like a intensity between the
Yeah,
opposites.
yeah, yeah. Like a
And
magnetism. There's like the polarity, the.
yeah, but I think it's more genital focus, right? Or it's more like lower, like it's that kind of hunger. Whereas,
Agreed.
yeah, but whereas with the woman, I feel like it enters the heart first.
Mm.
For me, if
Yeah,
obviously there's going to be totally different imprints for all different people.
of course.
Um, but yeah, when she touches the heart, it's like, oh my gosh, like the intimacy is everything I've wanted with a man, but I don't quite necessarily have it in the same way because men are men, like they're different, wired
Mm.
differently.
There.
Um, So in that sense, I feel really met and understood because my heart feels, deeply seen in from a female gaze, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which is a really beautiful way to relate. It's very nourishing. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to something that you said about, how, okay, so I'll just speak personally. When I first, I fell in love with a woman years ago and we were in a long-term relationship. And at the start of the relationship, I fell into comparing the sex of like, oh, but it's not like it is with guys, and it's like, but what is sex with women, and how do we classify sex? I had this big, lots of moments of like overthinking it, overanalyzing. And then when I finally like accepted that you don't there's no comparison. This isn't like okay, well, we can have sex like I would with a guy with you, because that when I let go of all that, that's when I feel like I deepened into like intimacy that was really heartfelt, and that didn't have to be like linear. It was very like, yeah.
Mm.
Do you relate?
Mm.
I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
exactly what I'm trying to say, but I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I feel like when sex with a woman is done well, it's like incredibly tantric. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it is tantra, like, tantra sexuality,
Yeah.
because so much is like merging. There's
Mm.
just like this deep merging. Whereas I find and you definitely have that with male bodies as well. You have that with any body. Um,
Mm.
but I think there's something about this non-linear, non-final kind of exploration where there's so much foreplay. There's so much sharing heart. There's so much kind
Mm.
of meeting the emotional layers um,
Mm.
that I think can get bypassed
Yeah.
with men.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Because it's really easy to just go, oh, your cock's hard and I'm horny and let's just fuck and then get on with the day.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's an easy one to slip into. It's like, well, we
Mm.
don't have much time, or it's like 1 + 1 = 2. If you want it to, you can put the penis in the vagina. It feels
Mm.
great. Like I'm all
Mm.
for a quickie every now and then, but I feel like it does bypass a lot, and you can slip into that,
Yes.
as
Yes,
a
yes,
way
by
of
not
making
taking
love.
the time. Yeah, not taking the
Mm.
time to really meet every little layer of vulnerability that's like actually present when we tune in. And there's a lot of
Mm.
space for that in female and female,
Yeah.
homoerotic experiences with women. Like
Mm.
it's like, oh, like breathing through the layers, and the deeper you go, the more kind of tranced you get, the more hypnotized, the more, because
Mm.
emotions, the feelings are um, addictive and
Mm.
intoxicating. And so as you
Mm.
kind of sink in deeper and deeper, it's like you get more and more kind of taken through the portals, I find, the
Yeah.
portals of emotion, and then, and a few hours later, you might
Yeah.
you might finally have some fingers in, or something. But it's like all these like places have been
Yeah.
traversed before getting
Mm.
there, and that's what I
Mm.
really really love about it. That slow opening, not bypassing one little part. Um,
Mm.
it's yummy, and I really get why men are so obsessed with pussy, because because when you feel a woman's feeling body open
Mm.
and then her pussy open, and the magnetism that starts
Mm.
to vibrate from
Yeah.
her beingness, and her pussy, like, the wetness, and then the vibration and the suction pulling you in. It's like there's like nothing else exists in that moment.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
in, and it's like a hyper focus. Like I really
Yeah.
feel that
Yeah.
um it's incredibly beautiful to, and it also feels like like a real gift, like a privilege and a gift to be let in
Mm.
that way, like
Yeah.
so vulnerably and so deeply, and then to
Mm.
feel her want, like her
Mm.
desire function so activated and wanting, and the body's
Mm.
response to that is really profound. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I can imagine that many women listening who have never felt like that deep, deep intimacy with anyone, let alone a woman.
mm,
I feel like that's the key to like the pussy really opening and like the wetness and the juiciness and the it's like opening the heart first for us as women. And so many women struggle with like not feeling lubricated or a lot of pain, or just not enjoying sex in general.
mm,
And I think this is the missing piece, is that they don't feel safe to open in their heart, and they don't feel held and deeply seen. And when that's the case, then I know personally for me, it's really hard to just cop a dick inside me if
yeah,
if
yeah,
I'm not open in that way.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of
yeah.
projection onto female sex, that it's kind of this hypersexual
Mm,
expression, all the fantasies and the porn and stuff. And so, and I know
mm,
that men are really curious and they love to watch it. And I think that what's being missed in that is that sure, like it looks hot and there's a functionality happening,
mm,
but what's actually happening when the energy's merging and there's true
mm,
vulnerability is in the subtle. And I think
mm,
that people have a lot to learn from that aspect
mm.
of women
Yeah.
bonding or females bonding erotically.
Mm, mm,
Um, that it's actually the subtle emotional feeling realms that are the intoxicating part, is that's what the pull is. It's not
yeah.
necessarily the technique of how good she might lick a pussy or
Yeah.
mimic male sex, put on a strap on. And
Mm-hmm.
I've really done that with a woman,
Mm,
like
mm,
it's like sure, like that's fun, but it's not actually where the meat of the and the heart of the experiences. It's like
mm,
fingers and tongues can be so deeply satisfying when you feel emotionally met.
mm. Agreed. I don't even like using strap-ons. Like my experience of having like a that style of sex is that there's no for me there was I wanted to feel the warmth of what was inside me
Mm,
and the vibration of energy inside me. And
yeah.
so when I had like a dildo just inside me that was just kind of it just didn't feel, I didn't enjoy it when I was,
Yeah, it's like
you
dead.
know, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's dead.
Yeah.
I much
Yeah.
preferred like all the other parts of sex with a woman. It didn't need to feel like it feels with a man, you know?
No, no, I think it's a bit of like a power kink to kind of play in those two. It's like, oh, let's play with this
Mm,
like power play. I did a workshop
mm,
once. It was a phenomenal workshop, actually. It was with Ruby May, and
mm,
it's years ago. And the women all weekend wore strap-ons, and then all the men were basically like our subs. And the
love
person that came out of me was someone I've never met before
it.
or ever again. I was
Wow.
like a sadistic, power hungry, cock wearing, like I don't know, like sociopath. Like I was, well,
Mm,
yeah, the power, the hunger, the surge of testosterone that came through me on that weekend was pretty unreal, actually. Like,
mm,
yeah, I probably can't go into a lot of details here, because it was a workshop, but
mm.
um, let's just say I had slaves, and I had those slaves doing a lot of different things to serve me in my cock.
I love it. It's
Yeah.
so great to tap into the energy of your cock as a woman, though, like really feeling that, like the energy of and this is going to sound a bit weird for some people who have never explored anything like that, but it's really powerful, right? To like, especially actually in relating with women, I've found being able to like feel into my energetic cock and then penetrating her in that way.
Oh, I love
like,
it.
oh my God, the magic that unfolds, like it is incredible. It's incredible.
So activating. There's so much aliveness in it when you can feel your energy body penetrating another body. It's so yummy. It's like my whole body gets tingles talking about it. That's how activating it is. It's really alive. People underestimate that.
They
I
do.
think that a lot of people haven't also experienced. I used to run a practice in my workshops where we would do that, and women would play in that way with their energy cocks and energy pussies, and so
it's really powerful.
Yeah, I've even done that with guys, but anally,
Yeah, like, me too. Just fuck them good and hard with my energetic cock. They loved it.
Yeah, it feels so good. But I think also, the women doing the cock work, meeting their energy cock and everything. It's funny because it's usually quite a young version of it's like, oh my God, like, the power.
It's like, I've got a cock and I'm gonna penetrate it. This is so fun. And
everything.
How fast can I go? Yeah, it's very young. Yeah. It's not mature at all.
No, but I do.
There's not much slowness happening there.
No. But I think it can really work beautifully to develop empathy for what it is like to have a penis, particularly the vulnerability of having a penis. Like, it's hanging out, it's exposed, it may or may not get hard. Like, women can hide these erotic vulnerabilities more and in many ways, but men can't. It's like, oh, can I perform? Can I show up? Can I fuck her right? Will I lose my erection halfway through? It's it's very exposing.
I have to interrupt this episode to let you know that today is sponsored by Pleasure School. Pleasure School is a monthly membership where together we study intimacy, conscious connections, and how to embody our true sexual essence. Every month, students of Pleasure School access members-only educational content across a wide range of formats, including written, audio, video, and guided home study. Pleasure School is led by myself, and I'm also joined by other teachers who are pioneering in the fields of sexuality, relationships, and holistic health. This is your chance to join a unique online school like no other in the world. Learn more and join Pleasure School at www.juliet-allen.com. That's JULIET-ALLEN.com. Agreed. So when you so now that you're exploring with this woman, is there a part of you that misses sex with men, or are you still exploring with men too?
I have. Yeah, there's something very cathartic about sex with men that's in a different way, but it's interesting because for me, my imprinting is really like emotional, energetic, and so when I feel satisfied and met emotionally and energetically, the physical aspect doesn't matter so much. It's important, but I don't have the same kind of need that I think that I need. Like, oh, I need a cock to satisfy me in this way. Like, I actually don't. Yeah, because I feel so full. Yeah. And it's also interesting, and I noticed this when I have done spouts of like celibacy as well. It's like there's something in you kind of forget. I don't know if you've experienced this. Like there's some part that kind of forgets when you're doing something else, or you're not, or that part of yours closed. Like there's almost like the body just kind of stops remembering in some ways. Forget what? The feeling of what it's like to just fuck a man. Like and I think that's why, like, women who haven't had sex for a very long time, they can just continue to not have sex because there's some sort of like turning off of something
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
system. I don't know. I'm curious about that. Something I've just been kind of being with. And then when I experienced again having sex with a man, I mean, it was amazing. It was beautiful. But then I closed it eventually because my heart wasn't in it, and I was like, I'm really great at sex. I know I'm great at sex. You know, like
I love hearing you say that, because that's something that I would say, and not many people say that. Not people are like, I'm great at sex. But yeah.
well, true. Like I've had a lot of practice, and I've been studying my sexuality for a long time, so I know how to do it well. And it's not necessarily what I want on a soul level. I don't want to just be able to have good sex anymore. Like
Yeah.
I want to be met deeply in my heart, and yeah, I guess like that kind of gets the sexual release aspect kind of gets a bit boring if it's
Yeah.
not fully met in the fullness of the heart, the blooming of the heart.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's just doesn't feel fulfilling for me too. I remember I got to a point where I was like, I don't just want to like have sex because there's a buzz at my sex center and he's hot, and there's like this like polarity there. I don't just want that. I want so much more than that. It's not filling me up like I thought it used to. I don't actually think it ever really did, but and I got to a stage where I was like, it's got to be all or nothing for me. Like I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this just might be my judgment on myself, but I also feel my need to have sex in a way that's just kind of sex is quite a young aspect of my psyche. And when I let that part of me really run and kind of complete itself, I was like, oh, there's more for me. Like this kind of feels like I'm kind of on a hamster wheel, like I'm going round and round, just kind of having these same kind of experiences. Great, beautiful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what am I really wanting from my experiences of sexual intimacy? And it's transformation. I want to feel transformed when I open sexually. I want to feel the energy churn, not just through my genitals, but I want it to wake up my heart and my psyche, and I want to travel, and I want to have visions, and I want my oracle to be here. There's so much more to it than just genitals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you're going to continue, and you can say you're not going to answer this, but will you continue to explore with this woman? Like, what's your vision for your future now? I know, like, we've spoken about, you wanting to have babies one day and all those things. Like, where are you at with all that now?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was actually thinking about this, how like why did I stop being with women for so long? And I realized that, because it was so innate and natural for me when I was young, but when I got a little bit older in my teenage years, I started to pick up on the shaming, lesbians, butch dykes, all this kind of like derogatory kind of language, and how much shame there was, and that there was something wrong with women not centering cock.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I've been like unraveling that part, particularly because I removed. It was interesting because I realized since I was a teenager, I had like male body at the center of my altar, my life altar, and everything I was doing was like, oh, I'm marriage, kids, like who am I got to choose right? Who am I going to have family with? And I was just like drumming this like, this belief system continuously. And then I probably just a bit before our last talk, I removed man off the center, and I put void and the mystery at the center, and started to live more deeply from the mystery. And then this beautiful being came into my life. And I realized I'd never really considered what it could be like having a family with a woman.
Mm.
And so I'm still kind of stewing with those pieces of like, wow, maybe like creating a home full of love with a woman would
Mm.
actually be really good for me, because I'm actually very
Mm.
female centric. Like I have very few
Mm.
male friends. I have maybe
Yeah.
3 like close male friends.
Yeah.
But otherwise I center, women. I'm just surrounded by them, and I relate really well with women. I function really well with
Mm.
women. Um,
Mm.
and I'm like, maybe that could be a pathway for me, but because I'm living from the mystery, I don't know. I'm just going to keep
Yeah.
bringing presence to that and see where life wants to take me, and just to remain open and fluid and flexible to what my life could be. Um,
Mm.
and I
Mm.
know there's a certainty in my system that I want a baby, but
Mm.
how that comes into form, I'm surrendered right now.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
it's a curious thing. I think culturally, I think there's probably a lot of women who would love to love a woman culturally, but
Mm.
they haven't actually deconditioned themselves enough from
Mm.
the stronghold of the programming.
Yeah.
And that experience of loving a woman also gives you, like really loving her, really gives you a lot of data on what it's like to be with a woman. And for that, I've also developed more compassion, because it can be a compassion for men.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. I get
it
it.
can be a lot. Like it can be
Yeah.
confusing. Women are
Yes.
slippery. We're really slippery because our emotions shift so much. There's this there
Mm.
can be this uncertainty
Mm.
of what was true 1 minute to what's true the next minute,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah.
and and for men who, generally more masc men who have like a value for certainty, and there's like stability, and that can
Mm.
that's like a whirlwind, but it's also a part of the intoxication, because you never know what you're going to get. You've just got this like Shakti overload just like spinning you, and it's a part of the thing that's like just makes you want to catch it and like,
Yeah.
you know, slam it on the
Yeah.
bed and fuck it. Like it's
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Pin it down.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Mm.
it's overwhelming at times, how
Mm.
much energy can be cultivated from a woman.
Yeah. I
It's like a
agree.
tornado.
Yeah, I learned so much about myself from being in relationship with a woman.
You
Like I
were with a
really
woman for
learned.
a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, we were together for 4 years.
Mm.
So that was long enough to really explore deeply, and I just learned so much about, like you say, being in relationship with a woman, and had so much more compassion for men actually,
Mm.
and just the ups and downs of the moods, and just like you say, that Shakti energy is just, it's can feel tumultuous. For me, felt tumultuous at times.
Mm.
But we had quite a tumultuous relationship, so that was just my experience. Um, yeah, but I learned
Mm.
so much. Like I'm so grateful for it too.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Do you
feel
miss
like
it in any way? Is that something?
no,
No.
no, no,
Mm.
I don't miss it at all. Um, I'm so grateful for the experience, and she is a beautiful woman, and that, yeah, for that time in my life, like it was beautiful, but I don't miss it, and I actually don't have any desire to connect with women sexually now, which is
Mm.
really interesting, because my entire life, like you, my first sexual experiences were with women when I was young, and then I actually think I shut down. It's the same story. I shut down that part of myself, because I think one friend in school who I was connecting with on sleepovers, suddenly there was this rumor going around that she's a lesbian. And I literally cut her. I was like,
Mm.
fuck, if they know that this happened, then they're going to say I'm a lesbian, all this stuff. So I kind of
Mm.
shut down that part of me a bit. And then I opened up again and explored lots. And And it was always a big part of, it was always a big turn on for me too. And now I just don't, I'll never say never, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm just feel so deeply met and satisfied sexually with Nick, my partner now, that there's just not that desire. I'm quite happy if I go to my grave not licking another pussy. Even though I enjoyed it, I'm really good at it. But, you know, it's like I've mastered that. Moving on. There's a lot of other things that I want to explore out of the sexual realm too.
Yeah. I think there's something also, I mean, I'm not saying that this was your experience, but there's something in the, I think women can go into the arms of another woman and be replenished there after having maybe some hardships with male bodies.
Yeah.
Like there's something very restorative and healing in having your heart met in that way. As a kind of pattern interruption, I think as well. To be like, this is the thing that was actually causing me a great deal of suffering, that I wasn't met on this emotional sexual level.
Yeah.
You're
right.
I think that can be a pattern as well for a woman to go from like hardship relationships with men. There's actually a really beautiful like Sappho, the ancient lyricist, the woman who inspired the name lesbian, because she lived on the island of Lesbos.
I don't know this, but
So she was one of the great Greek poets, and she was like basically like a pop star of her time. And she played the lyre, I think is the instrument. She was even on coins, and a lot of her poetry got destroyed, I think, with like the Christian conquering and things like that. But all of her poetry was about her love for women. And there's this poem. Let me get it up. Well, it's a segment of one of her poems, and because they've had to kind of save it's like little bits that they've found in different places. But she says, I would much prefer to see the lovely way she walks and the radiant glance of her face than the war chariots of the Lydians or their foot soldiers in arms. And I feel like that's really, it's like, this attraction, this drawing to the softness of the feminine, the restorative, healing nature of the feminine after being in like battles, which can be these war battles with men, or with men who have an unconscious kind of behavior around like bringing their war to the relationship with the woman, not taking it out to the world, but turning it towards her, and having these kind of warring against each other, the battle of the sexes, and so they're turning towards this like lovely sweetness of the feminine can just be such a beautiful place to rest after that.
I've never even thought of it that way. Well, I have in my own way, but not for myself. But yeah, it's so leading up to meeting the woman who I was with, I was saying jokingly, I'm so over guys, like I'm so over this. I'm going to become a lesbian, and I'm just going to like just fall in love with a woman. And then, be careful what you wish for. It happened. And then there I was, like in love with this woman. But I've never really thought of it like that. But it was an opportunity just for me to like rest in a way. It was still tumultuous and dramatic, but such a different experience to what I'd had with men.
Yeah, there's a disposition in men that does have that warrior aspect, and it can be really harsh and overwhelming for a feminine being. Like it can be a lot to actually and what's also interesting that I've noticed is that when it comes to like really speaking my raw truth, it shows up differently depending on if I'm relating with a man or a woman. Like with a woman, I'm much softer. I'm much more tender. I'm I'm much more patient. It's, you know, there's more kind of a mother element that also can reveal like this kind of tenderness. And I don't want to be mean. Like I don't want to be a mean person. But with men, like and I think it's because men have an armor. You know, it's that it's the Taoist that Taoist concept of men are hard on the outside but soft on the inside, and women are soft on the outside and hard on the inside. Like all their powers on the inside, and with men their powers on the outside. And I think that power on the outside can be a little bit of a trick because you think that they can handle things more than potentially they can handle, particularly emotionally.
Yeah, agreed.
And because they're actually very sensitive. Men, you know, when you peer into a man's heart, you're like, oh my God, there's like so much sensitivity here. And I have found that like I can kind of bang the chest of a male body in a way that I would never with a female body. It's kind of an illusion.
I agree.
You know, this armoring is like, oh, like the armor, I can bang against the armor, but actually underneath is deep sensitivity, which I think a lot of men are waking up, male bodies are waking up to now, that there is actually a deep sensitivity under the big power that they hold on the outside.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. But there's so much conditioning around they need to be that strong warrior, right? And they can't, like, to show that sensitivity is just feels so vulnerable that it must be such a process for them to unravel that and open in that way.
Yeah, I think it's going to be generational. You know, there's going to be generations of unpacking those pieces, because there's a lot of epigenetics and lineage pieces around like what it took for men to harden up the way that they had to harden in order to build what the patriarchy built, which was systems and you know, the positive aspects of the patriarchy being systems and, you know, digging holes without any breaks, you know, like, you know, just for days or months or years on end, like, you know, feeling like, I guess, like a slave to this like creation of building and structure on the planet. And a lot was sacrificed in that process, a lot of sensitivity, a lot of tenderness, because there wasn't space for them to feel. There wasn't space for them to go, ouch, like I'm hurting because, you know, I have to get up the next day and finish this thing that we're all the men have agreed to finish or need to finish to survive. So we have this hardening that has developed, and I think we're moving into a time where there's going to be more space, and there is more space for that sensitivity. I am curious about what polarity looks like in that way. You know, we're evolving polarity.
That could be our next episode. Give it a few years. Yeah. Shaney 4.0.
I have a harem.
Imagine. I'm like, remember last time you're deeply in love with a woman? You're like, yeah, I've moved on. I now have 5 men bowing to me, and my strap-on comes out at 3 p.m. every day. And I think we'll leave it at that, hey? So if people want to find you, where can they find you? Like, what's your Instagram and just wherever you want to direct them?
Well, my website's still down because someone hijacked it and turned it into a porn site. I just still don't know what to do about that.
Oh my gosh.
So
of course they did.
I don't know why they targeted me. I'm really not that interesting to target. I mean, it must be costing them anyway. So you can find me on Instagram, Shaney Marie _enchantress. I have courses, I have mentorships. yeah, I do one-on-one sessions. A lot of my one-on-one sessions are more about, generally about emotional processing, actually, and using the tools that I have gathered and developed over the many years of my work. But yeah, clearing out the system, getting more in touch with our sensitivity and authenticity, and waking up the Eros, which is, for those who don't know, Eros is the combination of our desire, our lower functions, like our desire functions, and the heart's blooming and opening. That can take a bit to really awaken. Not everyone is there. So, the spiritual awakenings can often wake it up. Really waking up the body, de-armoring the body so that energy can flow and we can really live in the fullness of our being, connected to life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of saying it. I love that. Thank you so much for today.
Thanks for having me again.
Really appreciate your time. Yeah, it is. It is. And I cannot believe you live in Byron and we actually never hang out in person, but one day.
One day. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Authentic Sex Podcast. If you love the show, please hit follow wherever you are listening and leave me a review. And if you really, really, really loved it, please share the podcast with your friends, family, and social media followers. Doing this together as a community, we can make an impact and support the world to feel more sexually empowered and free, and just get the word out about these free resources. If you'd like to join me for daily updates and inspiration, you can find me on Instagram, which is at Juliet, JULIET _Allen, ALLEN. And you can also head on over to my website to join any of my offerings, Pleasure School, the Intimacy Blueprint, and you can also treat yourself to the Juliet Pleasure Wand at www.juliet, JULIET, -allen, ALLEN.com.